When I play a game and then talk, I'm trying, Jennifer.
Rip City, what is going on? We are back again for another episode. I'm Alex. I'm here with Fawad tonight. Sean is not able to make it tonight, so it's just going to be an OG podcast with Fawad and I. So, Fawad, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. It's really cold out here, so I'm like snuggled in my blanket. But otherwise, I'm good. We're playing well today. We're recording as the Wolves game is going on, but thank God it's much better than the last few. But we'll get to all of that.
Yeah, it's we're gonna dive deep into the Memphis Grizzlies game, as I think most people probably expected. But before we do that, I'm gonna throw it to Fawad real quick. As you guys all know, Fawad has been pretty much the main champion behind our social media. Sean and I have put in a little work, but Fawad is he's been putting in so much work. So I'm gonna throw it to Fawad real quick.
Yeah, so I've been trying to make our social media a little bit more active this year, and I think I've been doing the best I can with it at least. We've been posting the post-game surveys after every single game where you guys rate the players, and we post the results the next day. I think that's been a pretty big success relative to what we expected. So thank you all for participating. We get about 70 responses every game, which we're happy with. So again, thank you all for participating, but I want to shout out our social media just in case people are not aware of that. So we are active on Twitter, Instagram, and Reddit as well. On Reddit, you don't really need to follow us, but you can check that out to see us post the link to the post-game survey right immediately after every game ends. Then on Instagram, we're at Unbiased Trailblazers, and on Twitter, we're Unbiased Blazers. You can check. You can probably find links for that somewhere in our Spotify, whatever you're listening on. So just want to shout those out and keep an eye out for the survey links, which are posted again immediately after every game on Reddit, on our Instagram story, and on Twitter. So whichever of those you used, keep an eye out for that, and we'll report the results the next day, and you guys can participate and do whatever you want to do. It's just a fun way to get people involved after the game,
I mean, Fawad, honestly, for reals, like the amount of work you have put into the socials and everything, it's unbelievable. Like the polls are, I think a lot of people really, really do enjoy them. Mm-hmm. We do get a lot of engagement in it, and it's just fun to see how everyone's feeling the team did, what players they're liking, disliking. So yeah. Props to you. I'm not going to take an ounce of credit on this. This was all your brainchild, and you have absolutely killed it.
Thanks. I appreciate that. But honestly, I don't feel like I'm doing that much work. Like I think I mentioned it before, but I had my cousins make templates for all these, so it's like very little work for me. I feel like I'm putting in like 20, 30 minutes a day max, so it's nothing at all. No problem for me.
Well, then that's good. When it's not too much work, then that's good. Mm-hmm. Now let's talk. So speaking of not much work, right. Speaking of not much work, let's just dive right into the atrocity that we had to watch on what was that, Sunday night. Speaking of not much work, the Blazers decided to contribute not much work to an NBA game, and we got absolutely demolished, embarrassingly. Like just no Ja Morant, got lit up by Scottie Pippen Jr. Dude, man, I mean, if you had any hope in your heart for the Blazers, that game without a doubt crushed any hope you had left. Like that was the most embarrassing. I know we're gonna get to this in just a little bit. I know we've lost a couple other games, by this amount or maybe even a little bit more, but this one was on a whole other level. This was just embarrassing pretty much from the get-go. And when your entire home crowd is cheering for a player on the opposing team at the end of the game to shoot and score, that shows you what kind of game it was, because it was embarrassing. We're gonna play a couple clips here in just a second that we don't do this too often, so I'm hoping it's gonna work out. But before we hop into that, Fawad, what was just your thoughts on that game? Or did you even watch that game? Did you give up? I gave up in the third quarter.
I didn't give up, but I was lucky enough to not be able to watch in the first place. I had an exam the next day, so I had to study for that. Thank God, because I don't know what I would have done if I did have to see that. I saw the box score and I was heartbroken. So if I had to actually spend time and expose my eyes to that, I don't know what I would have done. So yeah, I'm happy I missed that. But on the other hand, that was a depressing game. No one played well. We can, if anyone saw our post-game survey or the poll, no one got above a 5. Almost everyone got below a 3. I think there were 2 guys scored above a 3, maybe 3. I don't have it on me, but yeah.
We have Tumani with a 3.0, Jeremy Grant with a 3.2, Robert Williams with a 3.9, and then our MVP of the game, which it's hard to even say this is an MVP with how bad of a game it was Donovan with a 4.7.
Yeah, so that's rough. Ant got a 1.3. Chauncey Billups, coach, got 1.2. So these are pretty much as low as you can get. So on hand, I guess it's good that it's only upwards from here, hopefully. I'm not challenging the Blazers to prove me wrong, but I'm happy that game has not been bad, and hopefully there are no other games that are that bad. But yeah, that was a rough game. It was a rough week, honestly, especially after when the last episode I went out on a limb and I said Chauncey's actually been doing a good job. I was like, oh my God, I am so embarrassed about the words that I said last week. So I wanna humbly apologize for everything I said. I take it back. Let's fire Chauncey today. Even if we win this game, I don't care. Let's just get him out of there. I'm never gonna make that mistake again.
It is official. Fawad caused this horrible game for praising Chauncey. It is official. Everyone can blame on Fawad now. Something I just noticed on your survey here that is hilarious is these little emojis with the cold as ice guy. And I noticed you put it on the score of the Memphis, and that is hilarious. That is funny.
Well, I was gonna do it on the score first. I was gonna do it on Ant's score first because he got a 1.3. But then I was like, yo, honestly, everything else is so bad too. And then I just threw on everything that was below a 2. And I saw the score, and I was like, man, it's depressing to type out a 45-point loss. So I just threw on the score as well. It might have been a little bit too much, but gotta have fun however you can after a game like that.
So let's hop into this game here. It was absolutely. If you listen to this podcast, I assume that you are at least somewhat locked in on what games are happening. So we're not going to go too much into the game and the box score, but really quickly, 134-89. I mean, that is horrible. That is just, you don't ever see that. Our leading scorer was Jeremy Grant with 20 points. Yeah, okay. Congratulations. You got 20 points. There was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people that scored double figures for the Grizzlies. And I mentioned earlier that Ja Morant was not playing. Scottie Pippen Jr. lit us up. Jaren Jackson had a real good game. I mean, pretty much just their entire team had a good game. The only bright spot in this entire game, I can say, and it was by bright spot, I mean, it was just a dull glimmer of...
It just wasn't pitch black.
Yeah, someone turned their phone on for a quick second in the movie theater and said, oh shit, and turned it off real quick. That's how much of a bright spot this was getting to watch Zach Edey and Donovan battle it out against each other. We didn't see a lot of it, but we got to see a little bit of it. There was a couple possessions Edey made if I remember right, a hook shot, and Donovan came down and did and scored. I'm drawn, dude. It was such a bad game. I'm having a hard time even remembering, but that was it. There was nothing else. There was nothing else about that game. I came into that game expecting Tumani to just have a monster game. And I think even in Reddit, I even commented we're about to have a huge game by Tumani, and Kamani didn't play bad. It just was such a horrible game that it was just horrible. It was god awful. I mean, it was horrible. But funny enough, through all of this, through all the horrible game, Chauncey just sitting there. I made a comment about this. Chauncey's the new Darvin Ham hands in his pocket kind of thing is Chauncey Billups and his clapping. I mean, every time the camera pans to him and something bad happens, he's just clapping his hands like, "Oh, okay, come on, let's next play. Come on, guys." While you're down by 50. I mean, it's just there's no I've said this in a couple podcasts ago. There's just nothing. He's just like running through the motions and it's a weird thing because what I've been saying is what we saw that whole game, and then the post-game press conference happened, and for the first time in 4 seasons, I heard something out of him that I've never heard. Granted, I'm not watching every single post-game press conference with him, but it's something that I felt needed to be shared on this podcast for those that didn't hear it or didn't see it. So real quick, we're gonna play an audio clip. We're gonna play a couple of them. We have actually 5 of them. Fair warning now, if you are offended by some strong language, you're gonna hear some strong language. Thank God, because it finally shows that there may be something in Chauncey Billups more than just hand clapping. So we're gonna hop into this first clip real quick. So I'm gonna hit play here. You guys should hear it, hopefully. And then we're gonna talk about it a little bit. So here's the first clip.
How would you characterize that abomination?
I mean, it was just fucking embarrassing, to be honest with you. We was soft as hell the whole game. Nobody really fought. It was just embarrassing.
Okay, Fuad, were you able to hear that?
I did. It was a little bit quiet, but I heard it.
Okay. So, for those of you that were listening, Chauncey Billups said exactly what every person watching that basketball game was thinking. That was fucking awful. That was just the absolute worst thing that you could watch out there. And for the first time, and I feel like in the 4 years I've been watching him coach, this is the first time I've actually seen him like really say something like that and not kind of try to dumb it down or, play it down and not, make it sound like it was as bad as it really was. I mean, there have been press conferences where he said, like that was a whole bad game or, whatever. But this is, I mean, have you ever heard him say anything like that before?
I feel like maybe not this strongly, but I do think there were a couple games where he kind of laid into the team in the press conference. I can't say that with certainty, but I feel like it's something I've heard. So that's why I don't know how I feel about this. I don't think it made an effect time, but I don't know. I don't remember it well enough to comment on what happened afterwards, let alone if it even happened. So I don't know.
Yeah, and if you guys are listening and you guys are aware of this and you remember a time when he did this, let me know because I've never heard it and I very well could just not have heard it. But we're gonna play another clip here. But like Fawad just said right there, he's kind of jumping the team and telling them how pitiful that was, and and it's gonna continue. Here's the next clip.
It was very simple to me. My message to them was really, I told them that anybody that sleeps well tonight, you're a loser. It's just that simple. You're a loser. You sleep well after this one, you're a loser. So that's how I feel, and I mean what I say, and y'all know that. And so, we'll move on.
So, with that being said, he's spot on. Like this is the first time that I have heard where I agree 100% with him. If any of these players tonight, or Sunday night, went home, went out and partied, whatever. If any of them did anything like that, other than going home and throwing up and throwing away their shoes and the underwear they wore and the socks they wore and whatever else, they're losers. You have officially you don't care. You're not about basketball. You're just there to collect your money, be on TV, get some notoriety for being in the NBA, and that's all you're there for. How did you feel about that statement there?
He's 100% right. Like, if I play a pickup game, if I'm there, I go every Tuesdays. I just came back like an hour ago. If I have a bad day, I lost like 4 games in a row, even or something like that. I'm not sleeping well over that pickup game. Like if you're losing an NBA game by 45, that's like you can't walk out of that game and not be pissed off about it. So if anyone slept well, or if anyone even just ignored that, like if anyone wasn't thinking about that all night long, it's a little bit concerning. You need people who are, who treat basketball like something is a part of them, not just a job. So it's not like something you can clock out of and just not do it until the next day. I think we need guys who actually would have been personally offended by a loss like that. So I hope we don't have anyone like that on the team who would laugh off a 45-point game, a 45-point loss. But someone like that, they need to get out of here. That's not good for the culture.
100%. All right, here's clip number 3, and this one he definitely does lay into them a little bit here. This is probably the most direct response to just the players in general.
It was terrible, but they all were. You know what I mean? They all were. I'm not just gonna pinpoint the one or two guys. They all were terrible. Other than I appreciated Delano's effort at the end, Roops' effort at the end, Barry. Those guys came in. They played as hard as they could. But for the most part, everybody, they all suck.
So that's something you don't hear a lot of people say, right? You don't hear a coach say, "Yeah, they all suck," and to an extent, yeah, it is a little much. But at the same exact time, that's exactly what needs to be said, because at this point, what happened, what we witnessed, was just they might as well have just been playing pickup ball, because there was no effort, no care, no desire, no mental fortitude to push through and fight back and claw any semblance of competitive basketball. They all just threw in the towel within what seemed like 15 minutes into the game and were just completely done. So do you have any thoughts on that response there?
No, honestly, you covered it. Chauncey covered it. Just 100% agree.
And then I just wanted to throw this one really quickly in here before we go to the last one. The fact that he says this to me, and it's an embarrassment on his part. It's an embarrassment on the Blazers as an organization. But this is when he was talking about how badly they lost tonight. This is his response.
It was different, and more not because we lost. We've lost by more points than this.
The fact that you even can say that when you just lost by 45 points is absolutely crazy. And he's saying it as we lost by 45, but really we've actually lost by more than that. It's almost like he's literally oh well. It's crazy to me he said that. I mean, it almost kind of pisses me off that he can kind of joke about that. That's embarrassing to say you've lost by 45 points and then to go and say, actually we've lost by more than that. How many people can say that and laugh about it, especially in the competitive nature of the NBA, not just playing pickup ball, or not just playing high school basketball, which is competitive, but not to this extent. It's crazy to even joke like that. And then
yeah, I agree.
Go for it.
My only thing is, I don't know if maybe with more context, I didn't hear what the question was.
That's
or
true.
What, he was responding to, but there was someone on Reddit who commented on after our poll, and they were like, "We lost by 60 twice last season, and this somehow felt even worse than that." So I guess maybe if that's where he's coming from, we've lost by more than this, but this one is worst one. I guess I can kind of see that angle. But yeah, if he is just saying this isn't as bad as it gets, if he's saying that we've lost by worse, first of all, it's embarrassing to even have lost by worse than 45.
That's what I'm saying.
People don't do that over their entire career. But yeah, so if he's kind of saying that it doesn't matter that it was 45, as in the number 45, and it was just a terrible game regardless of the score, I guess maybe I can agree with that. But yeah, I don't know.
And I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't even remember last year. And like I said to start this season in the podcast, last year I kind of checked out. I had a lot of stuff going on. I don't honestly even remember losing 2 games by 60 or even close to 60. But
I
I mean,
remember one for sure.
that's embarrassing on its own right there. I mean, if you have a coach, and I look, before we go any farther, I know we are tanking essentially. I know we are not supposed to win games. I know we're supposed to lose games. This whole thing, my whole thoughts around Chauncey Billups are not that I'm mad we're losing games. It's not any of that. When we started this season podcast, I said like I fully expect to lose a ton of games. I fully expect it. And us losing isn't why I'm so frustrated with Chauncey and so over him. But you're there's just nothing that, and kind of like what you said, where you felt like you were kind of starting to see a change that lasted 2 or 3 games, and then it's right back to just being horrible basketball. And then you hear this, we've lost 2 games by 60 last year. No coach is staying on a team. No organization is keeping a coach that's lost 2 games by 60, another game by 45. Like, I'm sure there were games previous to those 260s where they were 40-point losses or 30-point losses. Like, what? I get we're tanking, but clearly something is not. We're not as bad of a team to lose by 45 points. We are not. The players on our team.
Sorry.
No, keep going. Go.
Yeah, especially to a team who's, first of all, not even that good. Like the Grizzlies, they might be a playoff team, but they're like closer to 6 to 8. And Ja wasn't even playing. Ja, we should have won that game, let alone lose by 45. But we shouldn't have lost, period. But I don't even know, man. They're well coached, they're deep. I get it, I get that. But we should have won a game against the Grizzlies without Ja, in my opinion.
Spot on. I mean, at the bare minimum, you lose the game by 10 points. Yeah, 5-10 points. Like, there is no reason with the roster that we have. I'm not saying we're some playoff contender team. None of that. The players we have on our team are good enough to at least be competitive in every single game. And that is not happening. And that's a problem. That's a real problem. Like, it's not happening last year. It's not happening this year. You have, once again, I'm going to say this, you have no offensive philosophy at all. It's just pick and roll. Let's do this 3-person motion. Harlem Globetrotters doesn't do nothing. Let's just hand the ball off 3 times, do a pick and roll, ISO basketball. That is the entire offense, and it's not working. It has not been working, and yet it's repeat. And then you get on the defensive end, and you have 2 out of 5 players trying very, very hard. You got Tumani going crazy. You got Tumani playing his heart out defensively. I love that man. I know we've talked about this 100 times. Tumani is he is one of the only reasons I am still watching the Blazers. Like, there is not many other reasons to watch the Blazers right now. Tumani is one of the lone reasons I'm watching. It's come to a point where I don't care that we're losing. Something has to change. Our players are not developing the way they should be developing. Part of that is on the front office, I think, because the front office is refusing to move Simons, refuses to want to move Grant. I mean, I'm not going to say refuses, but has shown.
You haven't yet.
Yeah, they haven't done anything to make us think they're even going to move these players other than the rumor mills out there saying they're willing to move them. I mean, you have. I was talking with someone about this. You have Simons and you have Jeremy Grant, both good players. Simons is definitely more one-dimensional than Jeremy Grant is, but they're still both very, very valuable players. And I'm going to be honest with you. Simons, to me, the more I watch him and the more I continue to get frustrated, Simons, to me, is a worse CJ McCollum.
100%. Without a doubt.
He's a worse CJ McCollum. And we got to the point where we were so desperate to move CJ McCollum, and yet here we are holding on Simons. To me, the perfect role for Simons is a Jamal Crawford role. Let him be a 6-man. Let him be Lou Williams. Let him come off the bench. Let him shoot 10, 15 times a game. 10, 15 might be every game might be a lot. But,
might be
yeah, let him shoot. Let him provide a little bit of offense. Let him play 20, 25 minutes. And that's it. He should not be starting. He should not be stealing minutes from Scoot. And it's not because I think Scoot's some great player, but Scoot does not have the opportunity to develop because he has to play with Simons, or he has to come in off the bench for Simons. And then when Simons is in and he's in at the same time, then Simons just has the ball 24/7 and he can't do anything besides shoot the ball. And then you got Sharp, who, if Scoot, Simons, and Sharp are playing, then Sharp's playing out of position at the 3. And then you have, once again, Simons taking the ball from Sharp because Simons has to have the ball or else he's useless out there. So it's just like, we got to move Simons. I know we said this last time. I feel like we have to move Grant just because, like I said in the last podcast, he doesn't contribute to our team in the way that we need it, and we're just wasting his talent. It's kind of like with Dame. We were just wasting his talent at that point. We just have to move him. But I want to say, do you have any, before we go, do you have anything else you want to add to my little rant there again?
No, I agree. I think he should have been gone last trade deadline, if not last summer. Trying to cope like this summer that he's still on the team, but maybe it'll help us because he's a better playmaker than than Scoot, but his playmaking is a lot worse this year as well. So it's honestly 0 redeeming factors at this point. So ready to move on. I'm ready to just bench him and like now and just kick him out of the rotation for a couple games to send a message. It looks 100%. Like he got hurt now anyway, so maybe I don't want to say silver lining on an injury, but we might get to see what that looks anyways. But yeah, well, we're gonna get to that here in just a second. The very last clip I wanted to play real quick, it's a really short one, and this is something I 100% believe Chauncey Billups means this when he says this, and this is exactly what I was saying when a couple of episodes ago when we talked about like how when I played basketball, even though I'm not in the NBA and I know I'm not good enough to be in the NBA, like the effort level that they were putting out, how embarrassing it was, and like just low effort. Like I would have been embarrassed if I was playing. So here's Chauncey kind of saying almost the exact same thing.
I wish I was on this team. I would just tell you that I wish I could be playing on this team in a moment like that.
So he's essentially saying he wishes he was on the team to show them like who gives a shit if we're losing by 40? I'm putting out 100% effort no matter what. And I 100% agree. And I think that is exactly how he would have played if he was on our team at that exact moment. I like hearing that from him because that's the mindset these players should have. And clearly they don't. But it was good to hear. And I wanted to add that. I wanted to give him some props on that. That's all the clips we have for tonight. Thank you for joining my YouTube channel of clips. But let's talk about a couple things real quick. We're playing the first off
before we move on.
Sure.
A question for you.
Yep.
So we heard all these clips and everything. Do you think it'll have an effect?
Well, I mean, if you look at if you would have asked me that question before this game tonight, I would have told you yes. How much of an effect or how long the effect would have been, I would have guessed at most 1 quarter. If you would have asked me before the game, this game tonight against the Timberwolves has been very, very enjoyable to watch. Not because we're winning, but like they're playing hard, both offensively and defensively. They're moving the ball around a lot more. Robert Williams is having a hell of a game.
Amazing.
Like you mentioned earlier, it looks like Simons may have got hurt. So Banton got in a little bit more. Scoot got in foul trouble early on, which kind of one of the fouls was very questionable, but oh well. But yeah, I mean, you're kind of seeing, you're seeing, and also let me put this so everyone knows we're hitting a lot of threes tonight, which has not happened. I mean, that's a big reason why we're up, but it's been a much more enjoyable game on both ends of the floor, but mostly just the effort is out there. What did you think hearing all those clips? Did you think how it was going to play out?
Honestly, I wasn't too optimistic. I don't know if this team has shown that they have shown some fight, but I don't know if they've shown that they are able, okay, let me start over. I don't know if this team has shown that they respect Chauncey enough to heed his message. So that's why I thought like think Chauncey, I don't know, I'm speaking from outside, so I could be wrong, but it feels like Chauncey doesn't really have the locker room. So that's why I thought they might not care as much. And if they do play better, it would probably be just them bouncing back from a bad game. But I don't know, we're playing a lot better now. We're up almost 20 against a pretty decent team. Maybe it is because of Chauncey, so some credit to him there. But honestly, I'm like very hesitant to give him any credit now after last podcast. But yeah, I think let's see. I don't know. It's too early to make a call if he has had an effect yet. I could see us keeping up this level of play for a few more games, but I could also see us having a disaster of a game like next game again.
Yeah, and let me just say this: if they came out tonight and had anywhere close to a repeat performance, I don't know if Chauncey Billups would have survived making it out of the arena.
Yeah. Okay.
Like the people were pissed off. Like they were. I've never seen that stadium so empty. Like, granted, I didn't watch those 60-point losses. Maybe that's how those games were as well. But that stadium was empty, both watching the game and then just like seeing fan videos. Like there was nobody in that stadium.
Did you just see Denny hit that 3? That was insane.
Speaking of Denny, I think he's hit 2 threes tonight. So maybe that's a sign. Maybe he's starting to get his shot back. Let's hope. We need it. But
also got benched, which is something big from Chauncey.
Yeah, no, and that right there. Okay. He benches Denny because Denny's not necessarily playing great offensively, shooting the ball, scoring the ball, right? Denny still was playing pretty good defensively. He was still getting like an okay amount of rebounds. He wasn't necessarily impacting the game as much as we all thought he would. But here's the problem. Neither is Simons. Simons is not impacting the game offensively at all, and we sure as hell know he's not impacting the game defensively. But he still rolls him out there. And that's where I would love to just see him be like, you know what? I don't care that you're supposed to be our best player. I don't care that, we've spent $20 million a year on you to be our best player. You're not performing. You're coming off the bench, and we're going to get dudes in here that want to play. And maybe that does something to Simons. Maybe it doesn't. I mean, what's the worst that's going to happen? We're going to lose by 40 again? Simons isn't helping us when he's starting. He's definitely not. It's not going to be any worse when he's not starting. I mean, that game against Memphis, he had 4 points. I mean, I know he didn't play a ton of minutes, but he's not doing anything. He's not been very good this season. Like, honestly, every game he plays is probably bringing his trade value down a little bit more and more.
I mean, if we go back to our poll, he's had below a 4, I think, in, I want to say, all but 2 of them. And his 2 games were like a 7 and a 6 or something like that. So he's been pretty bad the entire season.
Yeah. And that's something.
He's at 3 games above a 3.4.
And that's just something I would love to see Chauncey. Like, if Chauncey's going to say all the stuff he just said in that interview, right? And he's going to mean it. Doing something like that is, yeah, I know you don't want to ruffle feathers, right? You don't want to, you don't want to make your star players feel like, oh man, they don't care about me. When you're putting out effort like you're putting out and you clearly do not care, like there are so many videos of him you can tell he just doesn't, he's disinterested. Maybe that's because he, like we talked about a couple podcasts ago, they don't believe in Chauncey anymore. They may like him as a person, as a coach. Like they may like him, but they don't necessarily believe in him. Those are 2 different things. But before we go any farther, I got to give a shout out. I have to say this. This home court for the in-season tournament is amazing. Like
beautiful.
The roses in the court. If you guys have not seen this, go look up a picture of it. This court is last year those ugly red lines down the middle, and every team's court that had just those ugly lines down the middle. This court design here is 10 out of 10. Like, I wish this was our court every game. Like, I love our home court anyways. I think it looks really good with the logo in the middle, but this court right here is just, oh man, I love it. It is amazing. And if we're going to play like this on this court, then we need to do it every night.
100%. Like, I was thinking those exact same words. I was ready to say it. I was going to save it for the end, but if we're going to talk about it now, like, it's a beautiful court. And I love, like you said, I love our normal court. I think it's one of the better courts in the league. This I would be willing to put it in the regular rotation. Like I want to see this multiple times throughout the year. Find some excuse to bring it back. Like it's the roses, the black and the red is just beautiful. So much better than that ugly red or whatever it was last year.
That was
All
horrible.
of them were ugly last year. This year, I think at least half of them are not bad. But we definitely have one of the better ones. It's just like 12 out of 10, honestly.
And speaking of this game right now, like Fawad had said earlier, we were almost up 20 points. Minnesota has made a little bit of a run. I think they brought it down to 13, and Chauncey just called a timeout. I am very curious to see what happens in these next couple minutes. If we build that lead back up, if the lead reduces even more. I think this is going to be a crucial part of this game right here at the 11-minute mark in the fourth quarter. It may be a little bit longer, but this right here is going to show you what if these players are bought into what Chauncey's saying. If they come out and build this lead, or at least hold them off and not let them cut it to a 5-point game, or even give them the lead, that's a good sign. Because a lot of times we lose it.
Come within 10.
Yeah, if they can keep it at a double-digit lead the entire time, that is a very, very good sign. And we can't just go back into this ISO ball stuff. I have ranted and raved. I think I had to make up for not being at the last episode. I had to make up. So is there anything you want to talk about?
I would love to give, I think you already did, but I would love to give a shout out to Robert Williams. He's playing amazing. He has, so this is 11 minutes left in the fourth quarter, so basically 3 quarters have gone by. He has 17 points on 8 for 9 shooting, 9 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals, 3 blocks. He's affecting the game in every single way. I think he's had a couple, not steals because it wasn't credited to him, but I think he forced a couple turnovers as well. So he's just been playing amazing. He's been good, I think, since every game he came back, except for maybe last one. He wasn't that great, but no one was. I think I said this in one of our two or three podcasts that we did last season. I said that I would love, I knew it wouldn't happen, but I would have loved to see Robert Williams start at center and bring Aiden off the bench, because I think I'm a huge Robert Williams fan, and I have been for a while, and I think he would be so much better as a starter. So, hopefully we trade Aiden soon and we can have that, or even if we don't trade him, I would love to see that change happen, where Robert Williams starts at the center, and then Aiden comes off the bench instead of the other way around, because I think Robert Williams is, when he stays healthy, he's an amazing player.
Yeah, and you just right there, that's the biggest thing with Robert Williams is, can he stay healthy? When he's healthy and playing, he is a great player for any team. We had talked before we go any farther. Tonight is the first night Donovan is getting a start. DC Kling Kong is starting tonight. Aiden ended up getting injured. I believe Fawad said there was something to do with his hand. So Aiden is not playing tonight. And then we also have to touch on this real quick. We mentioned it. Ant got hurt. It very well, from what is being said, it could possibly be a collapsed lung. That's a possibility. Some kind of respiratory issue. He got hit in the chest at one point, and he didn't necessarily fall to the ground, but he walked to the sideline and just kind of kneeled down and just sat there. So that definitely is something we have to pay attention to. That's a big deal. And then I don't know if I've seen Robert Williams back since halftime, but Robert Williams also went to.
No, he did play.
Did he? Okay. So then we don't have to worry about the Robert Williams news. He went to the locker room, but it sounds like he's back out. So, and here we are, 15-point lead. So we brought it back up to 13. Oh, and it's back down to 13. Anyways, Fawad, you're spot on. I had defended Aiden for a while, thinking he could be a good piece for us. And I don't necessarily think he's bad, but he's very disappointing. You see Robert Williams out there, you see the effort. That's, I think, what it comes down to me. When I watch Aiden play, it's the effort. It just doesn't seem like it's there. It almost seems like he's kind of going through the motions and just relying on his height and his wingspan to kind of get him rebounds, and he's very like watching Robert Williams go into the post, dunk on people, get all these alley-oops. You wouldn't see that necessarily with Ayton. You get a lot of like soft layups.
Sure.
Yeah, once in a while you do, but you get a lot of soft little layups and trying to finesse it. And speaking of finessing, I just remember this. Oh, I'm so happy. One of the things I've noticed and I'm not a fan of is Denny does not finish strong at the basket. He does these like weird slow-mo Euro steps that do not ever result in him making a layup. Like it's some shot that he throws over the rim or misses completely, or he aborts last second and tries to pass it. And he just did it right here. He just like, I mean, I guess he was fouled, but it's so weird. He's so fast. He gets into the lane and then he just slows down and does these weird Euro steps, and it's driving me crazy. But yeah, you're spot on, Fawad, with Robert Williams, and Ayton is slowly beginning to frustrate me more and more to the point where if we did move him, I wouldn't be that upset. Do you have anything else?
I would just say I would be upset if we didn't move him, but I wouldn't be too surprised either.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised one bit if we did move him, and I wouldn't be upset at this point. I don't think he's really shown anything better from Phoenix with us, and so at some point you have to do something, especially with the amount of money he's making, and you know he's going to want some kind of compensation with his next contract, and I don't feel like he's he's earned anything more, and definitely less than what he's been making. So, but yeah, I mean, do you have anything else you want to talk about?
I don't think so. Yeah, it's just been a good game. Yeah, I just saw that happen right now too. Shaden,
and this is what I'm talking about.
I'm so excited about Shaden. I think he's special.
Yes, and we have to utilize him. We have to use him. We have to like let him be a focal point in the offense. And when Ant is out there, he's not. And I'm loving watching this. I'm loving watching this basketball game, not because we're winning, but just because of the effort we're playing with. This is the kind of basketball, win or lose, that I like to watch. My throat's getting sore from talking so much. I'm not used to talking this much. But
one last thing I guess I'll say. I mean, we've beat this, whatever the saying is, I forget. But the last week, it wasn't just the last game that was really bad. Like, I thought the entire week was terrible. We started off, we lost by double digits to the Spurs, who were missing like 3 guys too. And again, they're a bad team to begin with. Then we followed that up with a 25-point loss to the Timberwolves, who are playing right now, and obviously we're playing much better. And we capped it off with a 45. So that was a disaster week. I'm like, it was the first time ever that I thought Chauncey might actually be fired the next day. Obviously he wasn't, but yeah, it was a disaster. I hope we can come back from it. We have a couple. We have one more easy game coming up with the Hawks in like 2 days, but hopefully, we just keep up this better level of play. But yeah.
Yeah, and I just want to give one more shout out, just because I want to give props. This court is absolutely amazing. Like, it is just the best. But I also want to shout out you guys that are listening. Going from pretty much taking a whole season off to coming back and doing this again, and pretty much we're picking up right where we left off. I appreciate you guys that listen so much. Like, it's crazy to think that Fawad and I literally were just like, one day, let's just start a podcast on Reddit and let's just talk Blazers basketball. And we've got to interview a couple of really cool people. We've got to do a bunch of listener podcasts, and we've got to have one-on-one podcasts with a couple of you guys. And I appreciate you guys listening. I appreciate you guys talking on Instagram, on Twitter, on Discord. Like, it seriously is absolutely crazy to me that people want to listen or choose to listen to us talk Blazers basketball. And so I just want to say thank you guys. I love you all. Like, it's absolutely mind blowing that we even do this for fun and that you guys listen to it for fun. So once again, thank you guys. Fawad, as always, thank you, Fawad, for, doing this with me. Sean's not here tonight, but Sean as well, thank you for joining our podcast and helping us and, being part of the crew now. I mean, I'm sure but I'm speaking for all of us right now. We just appreciate every single person that listens, and I'm so excited to be back doing this, even with a rough team. But I don't have anything else. I'm
good too.
That sounded very weird.
Are you still here?
Yeah, that sounded very weird. My throat is done. Let's pretend we're gonna edit that out. We're gonna bleep it out. Whatever we got to do. That was a weird choice of words. My voice box is done. I have talked enough. I appreciate you all listening. Fawad, thanks for being here tonight. And as always, Rip City, baby.